Hey, it is layout update time right here on Chris's Trains and Things. Let's go. Quick commercial break. We are going to be double heading big boys at the end of this video, and we have a legacy triplex. It's going to be awesome. And in those running clips at the very end of this video, you might actually see some new backdrops. All right, for today's update, we're going to make our way from one end of the layout all the way down to the other end. And you've seen some of the recent work that I've been doing in some videos that have been coming out here and there. My last update came out in November of 2021. It is now February, maybe March, depending on when this video actually gets out there and I finish it, of 2022. So it's been quite a few months since my last update, and it's time for us to just kind of go through and review everything that's changed, especially with some scenic choices and maybe some ideas of some things that are starting to come into my mind of new ideas. We know that there's some big projects that took place, and so we're going to talk about those. We're also going to talk about some of the new items on the layout. Some of those have been reviewed, some of them have not. They've kind of just skated right through the cracks, and so we'll point those out as well today, right here. So let's go ahead and let's jump in with some of the new things that we have on the roster. The first new piece that we have is going to be this gigantic boxcar. Now, not too long ago, I came back from Detroit with the Grand Trunk boxcar that I had gotten from Jason, and he found this one in his collection also that he was going to move away from, so he sold this to me, which was really fortunate. So now I've got two giant boxcars, slowly building the collection of these things. But this thing's really neat. I actually haven't put it on the layout behind a train just yet, but we will at some point in time, and I really appreciate Jason for helping me out with this thing. We also added the Angus set, and I recently did a review of this. I really hope you watched that. This was one of my white whale collection pieces. The Angus set is just fantastic. This engine, the 0880 articulated camelback's really cool. So pick that up from Toy Trains and Collectibles down in Manassas, Virginia. As I'm sure you've heard many times, this set is PS3 from the 2011 catalog, and it was actually had 0 miles on the odometer when I picked it up. So it comes with the Angus piece, the Angus locomotive, and then 5 Erie hoppers, as well as a bobber caboose, which is really cool. Another thing I picked up down at Toy Trains and Collectibles were these MTH H31Bs. They're going to start rolling away on me here. So these Pensy War Bonds hoppers, I have these. I'm running these with the Angus right now because they're about the same size. I don't have any composite hoppers in my collection, but these are great. I think they need a little bit of weathering, but these are really nice to add to the collection as well. I added the Pacemaker set, which is just fantastic. That's going to come with the 5 PS4 boxcars and the caboose, all in matching schemes from Lionel. One of those boxcars is a Vision Line boxcar, and I recently dropped a video reviewing this set. And then, along with those, are the 2 Atlas cars with it. So those Atlas cars are slightly painted differently, but they look great with that consist as well. So that was a nice addition, too. We added the Strasbourg SW8. This is from the Lionel 2021 Volume 1 Big Book. And this was the first pre-order from that catalog that has come in. I'm still waiting on the Acela. That should be here soon. But this is a neat little engine. It has a single motor and a drive shaft that powers both trucks, which is really neat. And they have the it's got the fixed trucks, or fixed pilots rather, which is really, really neat. So this was a great addition to the layout, especially since I see this engine running all the time up in Strasbourg. To begin today, we're going to come down here to the turntable area. The biggest change to this area was obviously going to be the Roundhouse, and many of you probably have seen the video of the Roundhouse grand opening. So this is a pretty exciting piece. Now, this is the 5-star Roundhouse from Altoona Model Works. The reason that it's placed in the location that it is simply because I couldn't fit it anywhere else. The spacing that I allotted myself when I built this layout it's relatively, it's huge, but this area over here is tight because I've got my seating area and TV area over here. So the turntable itself is 28 inches. And so the back of the Roundhouse is 55 inches from the center of the turntable. And so that kind of limits my space with what I could squeeze in here. So this Roundhouse is the biggest one that I could fit. Now, Altoona Model Works Roundhouse kit comes with 3 stalls, and you can add as many as you want with extensions on the front or the rear. Now, obviously I couldn't fit any front or rear extensions because of the space I had. If you had a front extension, you have to move the roundhouse back a little bit. And so it just wasn't gonna work out, but this looks great. Now, why is it here and not over here where you can like look into it? Same idea. The turntable is actually not positioned perfectly in the middle of this area. So what I would have had to do is move the turntable more this way so the roundhouse would have fit on that side. And I simply didn't think about that when I designed the layout. My thought was just to put, when I did the SCARM track, that's where I set it and that's where I had it set up. And so this is what I have to live with now. And I'm quite all right with it because it allows you really easy access to a look on the inside of the roundhouse, which we'll do in a minute. Some of the other things that I've done over here is I've added some trees, some super trees that I've been working on, added some cinders for a ground cover and things like that. Got all my whisker tracks wired up. All these whisker tracks used to be Gargraves. These are all now Atlas, so they line up perfectly with the turntable, except for the ones on this side that lead in from the main line. Those are still Gargraves. I've added the Atlas O water tower kit back there. So I built that a couple months ago and painted it, added a little bit of dust and stuff like that to make it look like some rust streaking and some weathering a little bit. And so that looks really nice. It's not positioned in the perfect location just yet. It's just sitting there, but it looks nice in the background. If we glance over here, you'll see we've got some backdrops coming in. So this is a sample backdrop from Train Junkies, and I'll link their information in this video. Train Junkies and I, William from Train Junkies, he and I have been working together on this. I've got about 80 linear feet of backdrop needed. So it's gonna be mostly Appalachian scene. This will be a yard over here and then switch to just mountains. But he sent me this sample just so we could get an idea of how it's gonna look. And honestly, I think it looks fantastic. So this is just a sample. That piece will go when the new ones come in. They should be in pretty soon. And we're gonna do a full video series on the installation of those. But that looks really, really nice compared to just the painted blue that I had before. So most of you have seen this maybe from the ribbon cutting video, if you watched that. If you didn't, make sure you check that out. But I have added some more figures and detail parts in here. So you'll see some guys at workbenches. We've got some Woodland Scenics figures. We've got a welding light that I added. That's from PGH Train Fanatics site. Some carts of stuff. I've got a tool rack there. There's another tool rack on the other side of the Angus sitting over there as well. Those are from Norm Charbonneau. So if you check out Norm's channel if you haven't already, I'm sure most of you have. So he's been working on some 3D printing stuff, and he and I have connected back in the past. So he sent those to me to work into my roundhouse, and I'll be working on getting some wrenches and tools and so on to put on those tool racks so they're not just looking like drying racks sitting there in the middle of the roundhouse. But this obviously was all new, as well as the Angus there. We highlighted that. But so just some figures in here. We're going to add some more. There's a few more on the other side of the Angus. If we peek through the window, you can see there's some welders in there working on some stuff. And you know, the nice thing about this too is we can peek up through the roof as well if we needed to. But those figures look really good, and we'll add some more. There we go. We'll add some more as time goes on. So as we get videos of trains moving in and out of the roundhouse, it just looks a little bit more realistic. Now this isn't going to be so exciting, but as we come down, some of the other work that I did was actually organize a lot of the wires under here. This was a Hot Mess Express, and if it looks bad now, it looked really bad before. So what I did was I just reorganized and bundled all of my wires and things like that. So that way it was a little bit more organized. You can see where all the whisker tracks connect and go up through the wood. And then they're mostly bundled and come across to the switch panel, which is right over here. So that's why I have individual wires, because each whisker track's individually powered there. So I need to run wires all the way where they need to go. But I did rebundle all those. I also redid my power supply since last time, I believe. So that whole setup over here is all redone as well and cleaned up a little bit with the TIU legacy base. Now, my legacy remote will not go there. People have asked me that, but that base doesn't charge the remote anyway. That broke before I even acquired this legacy base. So it just cleans that up and looks really nice. I also redid the wiring under the layout and labeled everything so I know which wire is going where. And I just got some basically wire stickers that just wrap around the wire, and you just write on them, stick them on the wire. So if I'm under the layout and I need to trace something, it's gonna be much easier to find. And in fact, those wires are color coded. here is a sample of what those wire stickers are. So what you do is you can write on the sticker, and then you just peel it off, and you can wrap it around the wire and attach it, and that's going to tell you, like if we look up here, just like this, tells you exactly what it is. So this is auxiliary ground. And then if you have an issue with your power, you can easily go back and find out where you can lead that wire or power to. I also added some LED lighting underneath the layout as well, and we'll see that in a bit. Here at the front of the layout, I added some plexiglass. So this is actually a Lexan material. It's the same material that I use for my control base. But what I did was I just took some 1/4" MDF and I cut out the back and then glued that together and then screwed this in. So these just slide right in like this. So this front section is 2 separate pieces. And the reason I did that is because when people come down, kids like to stand here, and I've got this track really close. And because this is the siding, sometimes trains will just be sitting here and I don't need little hands grabbing it. So this just provides a little bit of protection for trains that might be sitting in the siding. Another area where little hands have gotten into is the ravine scene. So I added a much larger piece of Lexan here that protects the lake and any of the scenery I have down below. I used to have 2 people in that canoe, believe it or not, and then a little monster must have come down here and taken one away. So the plexiglass here has done a really great job to keep kids' little fingers away from the scenery, which has been a nice addition. And same thing, just some 1/4" MDF. So the back piece is actually just a 90-degree L. Then I put the front piece on so it just slides right in and is held in place. So you could easily pull it out for photography if you needed to, but for the most part, I just leave it in. It does a pretty good job. And last but not least, the biggest change on the layout right now is this whole town area that I've worked on. Now I did a documentation of the transformation from yard to town. Part 1 was adding that tunnel portal in the back there. You see the auto rack going down, tearing out the yard, redoing that mountain and putting that portal in. Part 2 is the construction of the town, from drawing it up to cutting the wood for the roads and the sidewalks to putting the buildings and wiring them all up and getting them into place. It was quite the process, but it turned out really, really well. This town's made up of 8 Woodland Scenics buildings. There's thoughts of maybe trying to get some more in here as well. And so it's been a highlight for a lot of people that have come to visit the layout recently. I used 1/8" hardboard for the road and concrete sidewalks. Added some alleyways and a plaza area. And it was where I'm working slowly on collecting some cars and things like that. This one's parked in the middle of the road. Let's go ahead and move him back over. But there's alleyways and sidewalks, and they have their expansion joints. I'll be working with Train Junkies, who's doing my backdrops. He's going to be doing some roads for me as well. So we're going to be adding printed roads, and we'll see how that turns out. Got my Jurassic Park Jeep there. Gives you some idea of some of the detailing in the town that we have so far. One of the vehicles on my layout is this Greyhound bus. This is a Rail King Greyhound bus, and this was gifted to me by Tony from the Rambles YouTube channel. Tony doesn't live too far away from me, and I picked up one of the Jurassic Park Jeeps for me. He had reached out to me after I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and he had asked if I could pick one up, so I did, and we ended up being able to connect, and as a thank you, he gifted me this Greyhound bus, which is so awesome. It looks great on the town scene here. He also gifted me this cleaning microfiber cloth that is personalized for his YouTube channel, The Rambles. So if you haven't checked out The Rambles channel, go ahead and check it out. Tony's got some new content coming out. He's got some really great videos. He does a really awesome job with his editing work, and he's planning his layout now. So be sure to check it out if you're thinking of following another layout build series. As we continue over this way, there's not too much that's been going on over here. I did add a farmhouse. I'm not sure if that was here the last time we did an update video. I don't think it was. So that, obviously it's not in permanent placement yet because I haven't done much more work up here. There's a project that Sid, RJ, and I are gonna do to make this a continuous loop up here. And so we'll document that as that work is done. I've got some ideas for some other really unique layout features that's gonna involve this wall. That's gonna be way down the road, but that's just a little teaser for something that might be coming up here in a little while. So lots of changes on the layout. This was a massive change over here, this completely changing the dynamic of this scene. And why did we add that tunnel portal? I haven't really shown this yet, but I did talk about it. I'm gonna be adding a loop underneath the layout. Let's go take a peek at what we have so far. So it's a bit of a hot mess under here right now because It's Super Bowl Sunday when I'm filming this, and I'm blocking off the underneath of the layout so that kids can't come down here and mess anything up. But here what you can see is where this track comes down from the tunnel portal, and it's gonna loop around, and this is actually where it ends because I'm waiting on switches and curves to come in from Ross. I ordered them back at the end of December, and I haven't received them yet. I guess they're pretty far backed up. So once we get that track, then we'll be able to continue this around. And what's gonna happen is this is gonna come all the way down, it'll loop around, it's gonna go down to the other end and loop back, and it'll be a reversing loop, but we'll also have a switch for a big loop that it's gonna swing actually between me and this track. That'll be a big storage loop, and we might add some storage tracks elsewhere down here, and it's gonna give us lots of opportunity for some really cool dynamic scenes in the future, for some other ideas that I've got bouncing around in my head. But for now, we're just gonna try to get the reversing loop and one storage track in. That's gonna allow us to use this a little bit more. So to do this, I had to cut a lot of my supports out, add new legs, and this is gonna be a 3% grade or so. So, you know, we're playing with that quite a bit and testing it out as we go along to make sure the trains can make it. But cutting out a lot of supports, you can see I've got it notched out there, so the trains are gonna be able to go around where they need to. But we're in a standstill now as we wait for supplies, which just seems appropriate for the time that we're in. But this is gonna be really neat when it's all done. So this is where that goes. This is the first peek below the layout. And so tell me what your thoughts are. This is gonna be, it's a challenging project. Highly recommended that you do this before you build your layout. Start down here and then work your way up. Don't do it the way I'm doing it. All right, well, that's gonna wrap this one up. I really hope you enjoyed this layout update. We've had a lot of big projects going on, and you've hopefully followed along in some of the projects that we've done. So let's run some trains around the layout here to wrap this up. Hit that like button if you didn't. Please subscribe to the channel. That we really appreciate that. That helps us out. So thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment, like the video, share it out on social media. I don't have a Facebook anymore. I just stick with Instagram. So share it on Facebook with other folks that might be into the hobby so they can join us along for the ride here on Chris's Trains and Things. Thank you so much. Let's run some trains. See you soon.